Good morning, John Sanders. How are you?
Good morning, John B. How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm
You're
awesome.
looking good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I feel good. Feel really good.
For a young man, you look all right.
For a young man, I look all right. For a young man, you look great because you demonstrate that your altitude truly depends on your attitude, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's you right there.
So I saw a picture of Donald Trump and his son Barron.
Uh-huh.
Barron is 6'6".
6'6".
He's 3 inches taller than his dad. He's
Oh my
probably
gosh.
he's probably in high school. I don't know where he is.
Yeah, hopefully he's playing basketball.
Well, I don't know. Or a tight end.
Yeah, or a tight end. Right, right. Yeah.
But that's pretty interesting.
So we titled this.
Lessons from a door-to-door salesman.
Yeah, I think you said advice from a
Advice,
door-to-door.
either way.
And when
Advice.
you proposed that title, I got very excited because I love this topic totally.
Good.
So you had a question for me, you said?
My question was, what was the first podcast that we did, separate from our book?
Separate from the book.
It was the sales lessons from the Music Man.
Yep, which you and
I want to reference that this morning, but I'm not going to go back over it. People have to go to our podcast and pull it down.
Yep,
and listen.
exactly.
It's 5 minutes. It's one of our shorter ones.
Yeah.
And I listened to it again this morning, and I said, this is really good. This
Yeah,
is
no kidding.
great stuff, okay?
Yeah.
Different than anyone else would come up with.
Yeah, I know. As you've heard me say before, this podcast, parablesforentrepreneurs.com, should be actually listened to in schools and colleges and places where people are looking to, learn about business
And life.
and life. Yes,
Business is life. For people in business, it is their life.
I know. Well, I certainly experienced that.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you
So-
have to say about all this?
Well, so I was actually I was on another podcast, a competing podcast, earlier this week, and they were quizzing me about
What
my life.
what podcast was it, John?
I don't know the name of it, but it's with Zeke. You know?
Oh,
Zeke?
okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's good.
Yeah.
He's got this great studio. It's
Yep.
not his, but he leases it.
Right.
But,
Is that the one in Vista?
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, he's got 3 or 4 people around him when he's over there. This one on the audio, and he's got this young lady Alyssa that works with him. She is also good, but she had the whole list of questions. She had 2 pages of outline, and apparently I didn't drift too far from it. She never interrupted me. They just let me roam. Every once in a while, I'll interject a question.
Nice.
So just let me shoot the breeze, which is great. I don't know how long we went, but I had a ball.
Yeah,
But
it's fun.
in the course of it, we came across the time when I was selling Bibles door to door, and then typewriters door to door. You remember what a typewriter is, don't you?
Yeah, I worked with that and a Selectra, IBM Selectra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Selector was a big improvement.
Yeah.
And the reason was a typewriter was very difficult to build. You had all those keys, and they all had to line up, and they all had to go to the button on the keyboard.
Yeah.
And so it was a very expensive thing. In fact, the typewriters I sold, the Remington Rand Wright writer, a little portable, the list price was $145 in 1955, 56. That's $1,000 now.
Well, I was going to say, I remember when I was working at this foundation, they bought an IBM Selector, and I think it was $1,000. That was in the early 70s.
Yeah, yeah. But that was a ball, and that thing could move around.
Yeah.
That was a real invention, let me tell you. All mechanical.
Yep. And we used it for typesetting, actually, for something we published.
Well, you could put a computer output ball on it. And I was we had one of my early deals was a company that sent out invoices to people. So we used the computer type ball so it looked like it printed out of a big computer when it was really tight.
Nice, nice.
So anyway, it came up and I said, man, this is very interesting stuff. So we'll just kind of cover my experiences selling Bibles door to door, and then the next year selling typewriters door to door. And I learned a lot. Some lessons that still are very deep within me, and I give them out to other people too. So
Sure,
I
and
thought it'd
it's
be interesting to go
relevant.
over that. Yeah.
It's very relevant
Yeah.
to today. Absolutely.
So when I was in high school, a senior year in high school, I was with a group in a Baptist. I grew up Southern Baptist. My dad was Jewish, my mother was Southern Baptist, and she controlled the religion. And that was their deal when they got married. Okay, so I was in a group, and we set up to go into in Louisville. We set up to go into southern Indiana, where it was all rural, and do revivals on the weekend because these little churches needed them, because that's
Yeah.
how they got their people out and got the new people and so forth. So there was a group of, I don't know, 5 or 6 of us, and one guy did 2 of them did the preaching, and I led the music because I had a loud voice, and I was get up in front of people and make a fool of myself. So but that was in the evening, Friday night, Saturday night, and sometimes Sunday night. So we'd get up there a couple of days early to scout it out, and I used the daytime to sell Bibles door to door because we had nothing else to do, and there was nothing else to do. So unless you want to go out and herd steers or something. So I signed up with Zondervan Bibles, which is still around. And so they gave me, my deal was go to the door, ring the doorbell or knock on the door. The woman of the house always answered the door for 2 reasons. Number 1, she was the only one home. All the men were out on the farm. Number 2, she was bored to death, ready to talk to anybody. Okay? So the first thing I would do is I say, look, I'm John Sanders with Zondervan Bibles, and I have a gift for your children. I have tracts. These are little pamphlets with the Gospel of John in it. And how many children do you have? So that was my market survey. How many children do you have? So I give her 1 for each child. And then I say, now, does each of those children have their own Bible? Not a hand-me-down, not a gift. They should have their own. It should be their personal Bible. And so I said, I have very inexpensive Bibles, and this is an opportunity for you to pick them up. So I said, well, I'll bring my little suitcase in with my Bibles, or I had it at the door. And so she'd invite me in always because she owed me. I gave her something. She now owed me in. The Fuller Breast Man used to do the same thing. Fuller Breast Man would come around. I don't know how often they came around. And he'd always give you some new gimmick brush and then invite himself in. So, and it worked for him too. By the way, they're still around. They sell products online now. I don't know, it's probably a different Fuller Brush company, but anyway, they're using the name. So I would get inside to sell the Bibles. My first statement, though, I would look around the house and say, where's the family Bible? Because the family Bible was the sales motherlode. That was $50.
And it was a big leather-bound Bible. Yeah.
The $50 leather-bound Bible. And so that was my ultimate goal, was to sell them a leather-bound, which always took the father coming back. So because that had $20 a commission in it. That's a lot of little Bibles to sell to get $20 a commission. So my goal was to sell one of those a day, though I'll get to 15 or 20 doors.
Mm-hmm.
And but what I learned was, in business, we got to make entry to new customers and give them something so they remember you. So if you got a little gift of some consequence, I don't know what it is, but it's worth giving somebody, because then they feel they owe you, even if it's a small amount. The second thing is that you've got to have something to keep your business going. That's why selling those $2 and $3, $5 Bibles were impulse sales. The persons either wanted them or they didn't, and the price was not at all offensive to anybody, because it was even in those days, $2 or $3, $5 was readily available. And but the key is to come to something that had a greater profit margin that allowed you to go out from the norm.
And that was the family Bible.
That was the leather-bound family Bible. And
nice.
So I advise companies like yours, look for a niche out there as we're moving along. We got time because you'll cover your overhead. Look for a niche that has a higher profit margin, and begin to move toward that, and then get another one that has a higher profit margin. Look what Amazon's doing. They keep opening new avenues of business. The company's amazing. They're not satisfied where they are, even though they're dominating most of them. they're looking for new markets. So I learned that still lives with me is to try to find the $50 leather-bound family Bible.
Well,
Sale.
are you going to get yourself a seat on Jeff Bezos's one of his rocket rides?
No, they don't have room for me on it.
Yeah, I don't have any desire to do that, but I know there's a lot of people that do.
Now the galactic one might be more interesting. That just goes up to the edge of the atmosphere, so that they're not going out into space at all. They're just taking you up on zero gravity rides. So apparently they had another test launch that worked very good. So maybe it's getting close.
Yeah.
And that's Virgin Atlantic. That's what's his name, Branson's company.
Yep. I like Richard Branson. Yep.
Yeah, and it trades publicly, and it rose up and down depending on the prospects of the company, where it is. I made some money in it earlier in the year, but I got out. I said I can't take this one.
What? Because the ride was up and down and up. It was just like too
Well, I
volatile.
made a bunch of money. What the hell you want? It was a gamble. If you go to the crap table and you hit the double fours on your first roll, get out.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people don't.
No, that just stimulates you. Go back to playing the come and pass line.
Yeah.
So that's hard to do after you hit the double fours.
So what are you doing? What are you doing with Bitcoin these days?
I still own it. I'm not aggressively buying. I'm not selling. I'm just sitting there. I have about $50,000 total in cryptocurrencies. So it's a hobby. It's not an investment. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
And but I'll tell you, I am not convinced which way it's going to go long term.
Right.
The governments absolutely don't like it.
Right.
And they can put regulations, they can do all kinds of stuff. When the bureaucrats get going, they can put you out of business, period. So if the bureaucrats really decide that this is going to hurt the company, they will put Bitcoin out of business. Now, whether that's just in the U.S. or across the world, I don't know. But this G7 is probably deciding now, they're sitting over there in London or wherever the hell they are, Davos, Switzerland, that's where they love. They're sitting over there figuring out how they're going to kill Bitcoin.
No, I know it's changing rapidly. And Reese Harris, he's we bring him on the Carlsbad Chamber Technology Advisory Committee monthly just for an update, which is coming up next week.
Good.
Yep.
So I will be there.
All of this has to do with advice for a door-to-door salesman.
Yeah. Well, the advice for door-to-door salesmen, frankly, the best advice is go back to the Music Man podcast, Sales Lessons from the Music Man.
Yep.
5 minutes. It's got it all in there. And you know what? I listened to it, and I even got emotional. I don't usually do that, but I got emotional when I was talking about the boys' band coming in the door.
Yeah, well, you admire the guy that wrote and read it.
I enjoyed everything about the Music Man.
I know.
So my wife will definitely not watch it again. I could, but she won't. So
no, I got it.
So,
to summarize your advice, what if there were three things?
Yeah, three things is get the potential customer something that they remember you by positively.
And that's in the digital age. It's called a lead magnet, where you offer something of value, and they get on your list, and then you upsell them later.
That's
something
right. You
bigger.
get a good reason to get their email on your list and have them read it when it comes in. And then the second thing is to have something of value to sell them, so they become a customer that is almost an impulse buy. Oh, I can't pass that up. That's too good.
Yeah.
And therefore, they now are not just on your email list, but they're a customer. And therefore, as a customer, you have a right to go sell them anything.
Yes.
And then find the $50 leather-bound Bible, family Bible, that you can sell them.
Well, it gives me some ideas. It gives me definite ideas, because every time you talk about something some lesson or some advice you give from like years ago when you were pounding the streets.
You know how long ago that was? I was 17, 65 years ago.
65 years ago. But see, John, what I do is I take this and I kind of map it over to current technology, current trends.
Yeah.
And now that we're like getting back to meeting face to face, I'm really looking forward to spending time with people face to face, because the door to door is where it's at.
Nothing beats it. The
Yep.
door-to-door sale is still the best. I love it.
Yep,
So
me too.
anyway, the next year, that was senior year in high school. So the next year, during the summer, I said, well, I got to make some money to help pay for all this college crud. My parents threw in some money, and I had a small scholarship. And I was living at home my first couple of years in Louisville, and I'd run out. I rode to, I rode to school with a guy that had a Carmen Ghia. You remember
yeah.
a Carmen Ghia?
I
It was a
sure do.
Volkswagen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I rode to school with him, and let me give you a story. You know, we're engineers, so we had our slide rules. Everybody, you have a slide rule, don't you?
Somewhere I do. Yeah.
Nobody ever gets rid of their slide rule.
I know. I know.
So, so anyway, we're in the summer because we went to school year round during our third and fourth year in engineering school. We're on co-op a quarter, and then work school a quarter and co-op for 2 years, and so it was a 5-year course. So we rode with him, and so one day I had my slide rule in the back on the back ledge of his Carmen Ghia, which was right open to the window, and I guess I laid it on a book. So it was laying on a book. If people at home are listening, it at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
So the sun was so damn hot. We parked in the parking lot at Parkway Field that it bowed the damn slide rule.
Oh.
It was curved.
Because it was a
Not-
plastic side.
Oh yeah, it was plastic. This was a new hot one. It wasn't the old wood
Yeah.
coated with ivory. So that's the original ones. It was wood thing with ivory coating, kind of like piano keys.
Yeah.
And they were great, but they were very expensive. K&E, Keffel and Estel. And so anyway, I took it into class, and we all kind of, this is a sign on top of a sign. You know, you're doing your sine waves. This was a natural sign. So the next day we decided, okay, we got to fix this. So we said, well, turn it over. So now it will go back the other way. Well, of course, we didn't do it right. And so what we had was a true sine wave. It went down and up and then over, you know. So we had two bows, one inverse. I don't know how it finally settled back out, but I still have the damn thing and it's flat. So I don't remember what happened. But anyway, that was just the Carmen Ghia. I loved riding to school like that. And when I didn't ride with him, I could hop a train. 3 doors from where I lived was the train tracks. And the K&I, Kentucky and Indiana Terminal Railroad. It's just a railroad that moves stuff between. But it went there, and it went within 2 blocks of the school, so I could hop a train and get off at the school. I didn't do that very often. My mother obviously was not like that.
I used to live about 25 feet from a train track. When I moved into this place, they said, oh, it only comes through once a day. Actually, it went through 16 times a day. And I was
It would shake her house. It would shake her house.
Well, yeah, and I was also podcasting. So I learned what the schedule was.
Yeah.
And I would do my episodes in between. That's the only way I could do it. And sometimes every once in a while I'd just like do it when the train was going by to give people a sense for all of that.
Well,
It was
I tell you,
fun.
I still love the trains. You know, right down from
I do
where we
too.
live is a train track here in Carlsbad. It goes to the Carlsbad station.
Yep.
And whenever we drive down Grand or Carlsbad Boulevard, I'm hoping the train comes by, and my wife has to sit there and watch the damn train come by. They're the same things over and over, but I love them. And if I'm walking, I'll wait and I'll look and make sure there's nothing coming before I walk across. Because if it's coming, I'm going to stand there and wait.
Yep.
So, but I love the trains.
Yeah, I do too.
I just got a new shirt. I went up to High Seas Trading up in Laguna Hills because I have these shirts with different trains and other kinds of stuff on it.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Route 101 and Carlsbad and so forth. So I went up there because he has his inventory. God, he's got all kinds. So I bought 6 new shirts. One with the planets and the stars on it, and another train one, and it was great. I love it. So this summer I'll wear them.
Is this the guy that shows up at the village fair?
He is at the village fair. That's where I bought his first ones.
And there is a village fair this year, isn't there? Brett's
There's
putting
one
it together.
in July that he's not coming to because he's got a conflict, and it'll be much smaller. It's just sort of to get back in. Then the big one in December, the first week of December, he'll be at. On State
That's
Street,
great.
I guess his usual spot. Anyway, and I'll wind up buying another one. So,
Are you going to be at the Carlsbad mixer this next week, the 16th?
No, I'm going to be. No, is it the 16th?
I think it's the 16th. Yeah, I'm sure of it.
I'll leave town. There's one I have a conflict on. We're out of town, but I think that one I'll be at. Oh yeah, where is that one?
Oh gosh, I don't have it in front of me.
Don't
I
worry
don't know.
about it. Yeah, I think the 16th I'll be there.
Yeah, that's
So-
good because we're giving away a raffle prize.
Oh.
Imagine podcasting.
Oh, good. All right.
Something of real value, actually.
Maybe I'll win it.
Yeah. Podcast consulting.
In which case I'll re-raffle it off.
You can do that. You can do
Yeah.
that.
So anyway, the next year in college, I sold typewriters. So I had to move up the technology scale. And I met up with a guy who was the sales manager for Kentucky Typewriter Company. He told me, he says, we're looking for people to sell because this is an easy sell. If people need a typewriter, we've got the best deal. And especially for high school kids going to college because they've got to type their term papers. I used to say, if you don't type your term paper, you are behind the eight ball. Because first of all,
Right.
it's messy, and it doesn't look like you spend a lot of time. You type it, the teacher has it easy to read, in which case you're way ahead, and they think you spend a lot more time on it, which also is a plus. And
See-
so that was one of my sales pitches. I said, it doesn't take a D paper and make an A out of it, but anything that's on the margin will be moved up.
Say, John, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
You know, your background is as an engineer.
yeah.
Did you have a particular brand of pencil that you used to use and like?
God, I don't know. The only ones we had were number 2 pencils.
Okay. Well, I was just on a call this week with somebody that's a writer. He's an analog writer, which means he doesn't use a computer. He writes everything out. And he went on and on talking about all the pencils that he has and where they got and, you know, fountain pens, that sort of thing.
I didn't like fountain pens. The ballpoint had come out. I liked
Yep.
the ballpoint. Yeah. So the ballpoint was a new invention about in the 50s. Mm-hmm. 50s were big years, you know, because you recovered from the war and everybody was looking ahead for the next 100 years. So
Yeah.
a lot of new things were coming out. So anyway, the Quemington Quiet Writer was doing national advertising. And they were advertising kind of like Geico, 15 minutes, save you 15%.
Yeah.
Their thing was 30% better grades with the Remington Quiet Writer. I think it was 30%. And I used to say, I believe it, because for those same reasons. You type it, the teacher will enjoy reading it, they immediately have a positive attitude on the paper, and it will take a low grade and make it into higher, take one on the margin and always move it up. So I said, it'll work. And then I had my own, which had the case beat up. So that was even better. So I remember he came down to that street I was living on, and his statement was, now how many houses on this street? I don't remember. Let's say 250. He said, trust me, there are 225 legitimate no's. The key to selling door to door is don't waste your time on those no's. All right? Determine early, is this thing got a possibility or not? That's why you need a pipeline with probabilities, and you move the probabilities up. Because he said, people don't like to tell other people no. So
Yeah.
they'll say maybe. And I have a little poster here, I sent it out many years ago. I said maybe, and that's final. It never moves. And you can spend forever going into maybe. So you have to bite the bullet at some point and say, the odds of that maybe becoming a yes are so low it's not worth spending the time on it.
Yeah.
Because you're like a door-to-door salesman. You're going one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of
Definitely.
what the door looks like.
Yep.
And-
Definitely.
Yeah. And so if you determine it's going to be a maybe and you get 5 maybes, put me off, it's never going to become a yes, but they don't want to tell you no. It's a personality that the people don't like to say no.
Yeah, I kind of move, I move people from kind of lost or whatever, but I also have a category called not now.
Yeah.
So not now is like, as an example, this guy I know, Barry, he wants to start a podcast. Well, he was all hot and ready to go, but not ready. And then the other day he said, I'm traveling a lot this summer. Let's talk in September.
Yeah.
So it's a not now. It's just not now.
But that's also could be a long-term maybe. You may never come around.
That's true too. That's
Something
true too.
else.
So
you have-
the way I like to roll is some will, some won't. So what next?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yep.
to finish up with the zone manager, he said, so you got 25 really potential clients.
Mm-hmm.
You put your effort on those. He said, now, what happens when you go through the 250 on this street? Guess what? there's another street and another street and another street. The world is full of prospects. So you just got to dig. And of course, with all this sales tools and Google and all that stuff, it's easier to find the prospects than ever because you see where you fit in and you go to them with a proposal. You can go cold turkey with a proposal. Somebody say, I was looking at your website and I think this would be perfect for you. And you have a layout of something that they ought to do. And so now you become the aggressive one because you've got something that they say, hey, that's pretty good. Right? And you know how to do that.
Yeah.
So then let them listen to mine and they'll know what they ought to do. Anyway, I learned that bit. What I learned from him was I said maybe, and that's final. And you have to decide.
Love it.
That's really what it is. Just lay off a person, not because you don't want to offend them. You haven't got the time to screw around with them
Right.
because they take your time from a legitimate sale. So but I'll tell you something else about that. So if I'd got somebody that said yes, I'd say, okay, I'll bring the typewriter out to you tomorrow or the next day. What do you have to get you? Because there was no money down, $1 a week for 3 years. You realize how much that is? $156
Yep.
to buy the $145 typewriter, which was already expensive. But I could offer it to them for $137 in cash. I forgot
nice.
whether I had anybody buy that or not, but I was in the poor end of town. They didn't have $137, and not for next year's schooling. But they'd fill out the form, kind of like you do a credit application.
Yeah.
Push hard on the carbon paper because it's got to come through for your copy.
Yep.
And I would take it down to Kentucky Typewriter, and the next day I'd get approval from Remington Rand for the loan. I mean, it never failed. And nobody had credit history in those days. There wasn't any credit,
Right.
So anyway, I would pick up the typewriter and take it down and get their signature. Then I got my commission, and Remington Rand had to collect the money. So one of my final sales pitches was when they were talking about it, I'd say, now listen, you send that $1 a week to New York City. Now, who in New York City is going to come down to the west end of Louisville to collect $1? Now, when you've got $100 behind, they might come down. But that was my sale. You're sending it to New York City. Who in New York City is going to waste time coming down here, collect $1 from some poor folk in the West End? First of all, they wouldn't even go into the West End. So that was kind of the sneaky sale. But I probably would sell. My goal was sell 1 or 2 a week. So that would make me $50, $25 a typewriter. I think that's what I got. I don't remember. And but that was my goal. That financed my first 2 years of college. All my travel, all my extra expenses, other than tuition. So I got through that, and then I was working co-op, and I made good money on co-op, which financed those 2 years. And the last year, I got a scholarship, so I made it through. You know what our tuition was? $400 a quarter.
Wow.
$1,200 a year in engineering school.
Yeah, well, that's changed a lot. What do you think? There's a big movement now to offer a community college education for free.
Well, that sounds great. I think you have a better feeling for it having paid for it. It's not that expensive, and you can work part-time, and it's just another give up by the government. What else are they going to give you? What else are they going to give you? Why don't they give us bicycles? Why don't they give us a car? Much more useful. Why don't they pay for our car insurance? Okay? All those things would be much better off.
Yeah.
Much more valuable to you.
Yep.
Not in the short run, maybe not in the long run, but in the short run, they're much more valuable.
Well,
when is the government going to stop giving you?
Yeah. Well, the idea of a bicycle is great, and I really like the idea of electric bikes. Ever since the pandemic, up and down my street, all of a sudden, like months ago, all these kids are riding electric bikes.
You can buy them from Amazon for $600 or $700, and you have one final assembly, which is not a big deal, and they fold. The ones you buy at the store are $1,500, $1,600, $1,700.
Right.
And parents are buying those for the kids.
Yeah.
I have one.
Do you really?
Well, I had a 26-incher.
Yeah.
I decided that I'm too old for that. The balance is not that good. and you're too high above the ground. So I gave it to my son, and who lives down the road here. He's turning 50 in September, and I bought a 20-incher, so then I'd be closer to the ground. I'd feel much more steady, and it works a little bit. You're still unsteady. I don't.
Is it electric, John?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, they're smooth. They're really
Yeah.
good. Pickup is great, and you can adjust them so you can have it as an assist. You have
Yep.
different levels of assist. It's
Yep.
really good. Really well done. It's a great invention.
No, I know. I see more and more of them out here. What else do you want to cover?
Well, that's enough. I recommend, once again, people that get this far with me, go listen to the sales lessons from the Music Man. It's on. You can read it on my website. You can pull down the podcast on my website, johnsanders.com. Have to mention that before we get off of the thing, and listen to it. It's really, it really gives you the sales lessons of how to progress from a no sale to a sale.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's really, really great.
A pleasure this morning, John.
Yeah. No, this is great. It's been too long since we talked, and I'm glad we had some time. All right. Until next time.
Parables for Entrepreneurs.
That's right. That's parablesforentrepreneurs.com. For those of you who are watching the video version, it's right there on the screen. And just go get lessons from the Music Man.